So coming here really has allowed me to use the business experience that I had to help this organization negotiate their contracts going forward, diversify our payment sources, and really focus strongly on the financial viability and sustainability of what we do, because people think when you work in a nonprofit that means you're not allowed to make money.
Hey, welcome back to the show. And today I am so stoked because everybody loves a good nonprofit, especially one that's been around for a while. And today we got one of those. So Paul, will you please tell us who you are and what you do?
Sure. Thanks for having me. My name is Paul Robinson. I'm the president and CEO of Home of the Innocents. We are a large nonprofit in Louisville, Kentucky. We've been serving the community for about 143 years. And
Woo!
just kind of a quick high level of what we do, because we're a pretty complex nonprofit.
Yeah.
We are the state's only skilled nursing facility for medically complex children.
Wow.
We are the state's second largest provider of residential treatment and emergency shelter service for children that are in the state's foster care system.
Wow.
And if that was not enough, we also have a very large array of behavioral health services that we provide. Our focus is children and families, and we really just provide everything that they need to help them thrive.
Fantastic. Wow. That is it makes sense. The name definitely aligns with what you're doing. So a lot of children oriented focus and a lot of things driven towards those who are vulnerable and being taken advantage of. Is that right?
It is. So, the name was created 143 years ago because the most vulnerable children needed our service.
Yeah.
And our mission has just expanded around that premise. And so today, the centerpiece of all of our programs are children. And they typically are the underserved of our community,
Right.
the children that have been abused, abandoned, neglected, have suffered horrible traumas.
Right.
And so we have a very special, very fragile population that we take care of.
I love it. A lot of people think of a nonprofit as a non-business, but in almost every function of a nonprofit is very business oriented. So, tell us about the business. You set out to help these kids, and how are you funded? How do you raise the money? Or what are you doing on the money side of this to help provide the services you're trying to provide to these underserved youth?
Typically, the children that we serve come to us, their payment source is Medicaid, so they're the underserved of the community.
Right,
So
right.
we really work with the state of Kentucky. They are really our primary customer. They pay the great majority of our services through state contracts.
Cool.
I'm actually a former business owner. I was a business owner for 21 years.
Love it.
And after I sold my company, I came here. This was a mission fulfillment journey for me. I
I
prayed a
love
lot
it.
about what I wanted to do. And so coming here really has allowed me to use the business experience that I had
Yeah.
to help this organization negotiate their contracts going forward,
Yeah.
diversify our payment sources, and
Yeah.
really focus strongly on the financial viability and sustainability of what we do, because people think when you work in a nonprofit that means you're not allowed to make money.
I know.
It is a
It's crazy.
tax filing status. We really have a responsibility to the children we serve.
Yeah.
We need to have the resource that we need to fulfill our mission.
100%. 100%. And how big is the organization? How many people are helping you fulfill the mission of the nonprofit?
So if we had every position filled, we would have 600 team members. And I say it like that because right now we have about 80 job openings. The workforce shortages that everyone is struggling with are affecting us as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have about 520 very dedicated team members that help us fulfill our mission on a daily
That's
basis.
amazing. That's amazing. And again, to your point, a lot of people think of a nonprofit as a fly by night group of volunteers, but 140 years old. 1880. You go all the way back to the 1800s to build this organization out into what has now become an anchor point for the state's ability to help underserved kids. What an amazing mission.
Well, you've said that so beautifully. When we started in 1880, we started serving 8 children today we serve really upwards of 3,000 children per year.
Love it.
We started with one program. Today we have 13 programs. What started 143 years ago with 2 or 3 people fulfilling our mission
Yeah.
now takes 600 team members, thousands of volunteer hours, dedicated board members, committee members. There's so many people. We have so many people in our stakeholders that help fulfill our mission.
That is a very complex problem you're solving. Like really, really cool. Very, very cool organization. And as as you balance between the paid staff and the volunteer staff, I got to imagine that dynamic is not normal compared to your previous business experience in trying to coordinate between people who are just coming in to be a good helper and part of the community and people who are expected to be there, and are they putting out the way they should? That's a tough thing to balance. Can you talk to that point?
It is. Volunteers come here because they really want to help our mission. They have great hearts for what they're here to do.
Right.
In a lot of ways, honestly, Todd, our team members are sometimes the barrier to our ability to more fully integrate our volunteers, because our team members are paid. They are here for a very specific reason.
Right.
And we try to get them to open up their minds to the possibilities that these volunteers care just as much about our mission, but they care even more in some ways because they're here to not even be paid. Right. So how do we get both sides working well together to help serve the children and families?
For sure. For sure. And how do you do that? I mean, that's a hefty goal. I mean, as a CEO of this operation, that's got to be pretty intimidating.
Well, and COVID has had a decimating effect on our volunteer program. We really sent away all of our volunteers for several years. And now we're really trying to put it back on its feet and trying to re-engage our volunteers. We have a dedicated outreach department. So we have a director over what we call outreach, and she has a team. And their sole focus is to engage and support the volunteers that come to do individual and team volunteer projects. And there's a lot of details and logistics that have to be managed in that.
For sure. Now, obviously, as a 501c3, and as you're trying to obviously pass the majority of the benefit that you can to these children and the people you're serving, how hard is that to balance? Because, obviously some fundraisers are better than others, some ways of accumulating funds and receiving donations, some years are going to be better than others. How do you balance that portfolio of how much cash do we keep in the bank? How much are we passing through to our kids? How much, are these programs costing to run? Tell us a little bit about that, because I've always wondered that operational side of having to try to distribute at the same time operate a huge organization like that.
Well, I'll tell you, I think we operate a lot more like a corporation than when you think nonprofit, because you think small, little organization. Our budget this year is upwards of $62 million. And so it is very important that we start with a balanced budget. It is very important that we have the revenue we need to offset the expenses that we're going to incur. I feel very strongly that we need to have financial sustainability. That's the foundation of how we grow our mission. So we start there, and then you're hinting about the complexity of that. It is very complicated to manage priorities and whatnot. And we don't have the resource that a lot of other large private sector corporations have. In the private sector, because I came from there, you can just raise your prices. You can diversify your product line. You can scale differently. But in a nonprofit, you're talking about children. You're talking about families served. And so we have to be more resourceful with what we have. We have to stretch the resource that we have a little bit further. We get really creative about what we do. We try to be innovative about what we do. But I will tell you, I think really at the heart of what helps make our mission possible is that we have a 143-year reputation in the community that our donors really strongly believe in. And so they trust us with their donations, in order to make this mission go forward.
Running a business, honestly, can leave a lot of founders and operators feeling lonely and isolated. If you have ever felt that way, trust me, I know what it feels like. And there is something you can do about it. You've heard a lot of our guests talk about the fact that being lonely and isolated is one of their biggest challenges in trying to run and scale their business. captainscouncil.com. Go to captainscouncil.com right now and see what we're doing to resolve this problem. We want you to be a strong operator who has solutions and has a way to get around the challenges you're currently facing. What most founders don't understand is that you're not alone. The challenges that you're facing, likely somebody else has already overcome, and they can give you the feedback you need to overcome them. Who better than your peers, other founders, other operators who are joining with you in a small group setting, a global community setting, as well as at our in-person events to guide you through these challenges that you're facing right now. Don't give up, keep on pushing, but do it with some good advice from your peers. Go check it out at captainscouncil.com and let me know what you think about the offering. We can't wait to see you there. Now let's talk about that part, because there are a lot of guests on our podcast that we've talked about who have assumed control of a legacy type business. And I haven't met anyone that started in the 1800s, but I have talked to several people in the early 1900s who have taken on grandpa's business, handed down from generation to generation. And in your case, it's not a familial thing, but it is a community type, thing that people feel like they've been a part of their whole life. And so tell us about that transition of you coming private sector into an organization that's been around, well beyond your grandparents, and yet try to jump in and initiate change, initiate modernism, initiate trying to what did you have to do to the organization to make it kind of adopt some newer tech, newer things, newer ways to make it run smoother?
Gosh, that's a big question, and it's an excellent question. So I've been here a little over 7 years. So the first year that I was here was really a learning journey for me. I had to
Right.
learn the nuances of a nonprofit. I could bring with me from the private sector a lot about finance and marketing and communications, but I had to really learn the programming
Sure.
side of what we do. I had to learn the differences of how to motivate and incentivize properly a nonprofit team.
Right.
At the end of that first year, we then really used our strategic plan that we created to help guide our work, to help us work on the foundation pieces. We had to make investment in technology. You mentioned that.
Yeah.
We had to
Yeah.
make investments in training and development. We had to make investments in the compensation and the benefits of our team. There were so many aspects of the organization that really hadn't been thought of because, again, our focus was on where we were growing from where we had been to where we were at that moment.
Right.
So
Right.
when I got here, it was really about let's put these pillars of support in place. And then just recently, in the last couple of years, as we were emerging from COVID, we're in a very good place. We're in a financially strong place. We've
Awesome.
done all of those foundational pieces, and now we are able to focus on growth. And so that's really what the future holds for us is we're poised for
Fantastic.
fairly significant growth.
That's awesome. How do you do that in terms of, are you locally in Louisville? Are you all over Kentucky? Like, can you go into other states? I mean, tell us about your plans for growth.
So our main campus, we have a beautiful 22-acre campus in downtown Louisville, which is where we do
Cool.
most of our mission.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're from here, we say Louisville. Yeah, so instead of Louisville.
Yeah,
But
I know. I make that mistake.
we serve children from all across the Commonwealth of Kentucky. So even though our main location is in downtown Louisville, we are seeing kids from all 120 counties across our state. And then for some
Awesome.
of our services, we actually do take children from outside of the state. So we have children here in our skilled nursing facility from other states. So our growth is really how do we have more utilization of the programs that we have?
Okay.
But more importantly, in the nonprofit world, growth comes from filling unmet needs. And so
Gotcha.
what we have identified is a huge need that is not being met by anyone. We feel passionately about filling it, and I'm happy to talk a little bit more about that if you'd like. But That's where our growth is going to come from. We are going to open a whole new facility that is going
Cool.
to be tailored specifically to an unmet need in the specific population.
Gotcha. And so is it going to be continue to be a Kentucky type thing because that's one of your primary clients, as you mentioned earlier, the state of Kentucky? Or is it something that is kind of like another type of healthcare service for the same audience, and meaning another thing to help the youth?
Well, what we're hinting about here, let me mention it, and then I'll answer your question.
Yeah.
We are a skilled nursing facility for medically complex children. So they're here with us
Yeah.
from birth to 21. And when they turn 21, they will discharge from our care and they'll go to a geriatric facility that is
Gotcha.
really designed for 80, 90-year-olds. And so
Wow.
what we are going to do is we're going to build a skilled nursing facility for young adults. It is for
Love it.
21 to
Love it.
35-year-olds. So to answer your question, we are the only pediatric facility in Kentucky, and we will be one of just a few young adult facilities across the country. So
In the country. Yeah.
when we open this, not only will we serve the young adults' needs of Kentucky, the door will be open for placements that
Yeah.
can come from other neighboring states.
What a smart way to grow. I love that.
Well, our board has wrestled with this moral issue about how do we help our children.
Yeah.
A very sobering statistic, Todd, is within 18 months of discharging from our facility, 40% of our residents pass away. And it's
Whoa.
because the care that they receive in other geriatric type long term care facilities is just not the same as our pediatric facility. And
Wow.
we just feel very strongly that we want their care to continue in a way that
Yeah.
we know that we're capable of doing it, but also we want their lives to thrive. And so
Sure. Sure.
it just feels right to us that we are going to build a companion facility where our children will transition. They'll literally go on the other side of our campus and they'll continue to receive the same compassion and nursing care that they're getting today.
Awesome. Awesome. So you will keep it generally on the same campus.
That is our hope. We're working on site selection right now. So if
Yeah.
you ask me that question in about 3 or 4 more weeks, I'll know the answer.
Well, by the time this thing airs, hopefully you got it figured out and we can put it in the show notes.
Yes,
That's
hopefully.
cool. No, that's very awesome. Well, listen, this is so fascinating for me because a lot of us who are in these, the for-profit organizations, we always want to find value-based places where we can contribute profitability to and really kind of add value to our communities and the things going on around us. What do you see as one of your biggest challenges as a nonprofit operating a nonprofit and your relationships with for-profit companies looking to participate and engage with you?
Well, I believe in the culture of philanthropy, which means that we want someone to support our mission because they believe in our mission. They want
Sure,
to make an
sure.
investment in our mission. So we feel it's very important that it's relational. So when we meet with corporations and large companies, we want to draw them
Yeah,
in, take a tour of our facility, let them see the children that we serve. And when they believe in that, investment in our mission naturally comes from that.
sure,
We
sure.
really try to avoid transactional fundraising, which feels like give me this for this reason. We really just
Right.
want people to believe in our mission. And I think our reputation and the length of time that we've been in the community, I think, speaks to that. Um,
Sure,
and I
sure.
think when people trust management and they trust in the leaders of our organization, I think that also helps us. So we really just do our very best, and it takes a lot of intentional effort to
Right.
just spend time with our investors so that they know. So it's like an example. I'll give them multiple tours today to
Sure.
individuals that is intentional to help draw them in to learn more about our mission and find ways that they can engage with our mission.
Interesting. And go taking one step back to our other conversation about your leadership role. Obviously, in 140 years, you've had a series of different managers, CEOs of the organization. How has that, you know, was it difficult to come in under how long had the previous CEO been operating the company? And how hard was that transition to kind of get the team to support and rally around what you were doing?
Well, my predecessor was here for a total of 25 years. I think 21 of the 25 in
Wow.
the role as president and CEO.
Wow.
And I think in our 143-year journey, we've had dozens of leaders here. But I think
Wow.
the wonderful thing about nonprofits is that the board of directors, who is the governing body,
Sure.
they identify and select a leader that they think is appropriate for that period of time.
Right.
So my
Right.
predecessor actually raised $65 million dollars over 20 years to help build the campus that we're on right now today.
Wow.
So he has an incredible legacy of his contribution at that time.
Sure. Sure.
And then the need changed. And at the time that he left, the board had to select me, and the need was different. They needed somebody not to raise money to build the campus, that had been done. They needed
Right.
somebody to focus on sustainability and
Right.
poising
Right.
the organization, preparing it to get ready for the growth of this large program. So the time's going to
Love
come,
it.
Todd, when I will have fulfilled the part of this journey that I'm contributing to, and I trust
Right.
in the process. The board will select somebody that'll come in that will provide for the mission in a way that I
The
wasn't able to
next
provide.
initiative.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that is so cool. What a strange way to think about it, but it's an amazing continuity plan. As I think about, we talk a lot about on the show exit strategy and what do you do as you're preparing to exit your company, and you just kind of laid it out there. You're there for a very specific purpose to do a very specific thing for the organization, and when it's your time to pass the baton, you're ready to do it. That's awesome.
I tell my team all the time, I kind of feel like Mary Poppins. When her job was done, she put her umbrella up and she left. And I think
Right.
I'll just know when our work is done here and that my work is completed. And when
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
done, it'll be time for me to step aside and let someone else come in. That's not happening anytime soon. I've got a full plate.
Sure.
We've got to raise $50 million dollars to build this new facility. We've got to hire 300 new team members to man the new
Wow.
facility, and we've got to
Wow.
build it. So I think I've got plenty to keep me busy for the next couple of years. So
Well, very cool stuff. Listen, Paul, I love the conversation. I think this has been super insightful because I do think that there's a lot of mystery that goes into the inner workings of a complex nonprofit like you've been talking about. I mean, this is a big, long-lasting, tradition-based, value-based organization, and what a great blessing it's been for you to be there. I honestly, I think it's really, really cool. So thanks for sharing some insights with us today.
thank you very much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about our mission.
You bet. Now, before we leave, I do love to get the shout out. Who is it that's kind of inspired you to do this? Because this is not an everyday move for someone that spent 20 years, 21 years in private sector operating a different type of business.
Well, can I share two? Is that all right?
Oh, please. Yeah.
Well, so my business partner for the 21 years that I was in business as an owner was my father. And so
Awesome.
he really gave me a lot of skills and knowledge and expertise that he shared about how to treat people, how to run a business, and how to protect margin, which was so
Right.
important.
Right.
And then when the time came for us to sell the company and for me to consider coming here, I leaned on several people were around me in the nonprofit space.
Right.
And I really relied on their expertise. And then as it turned out, several of them wrote letters of recommendation, encouraged me to make this leap from the private
Cool.
sector to the nonprofit space. And I'm very grateful, in particular, Judy Burns, who was the executive director of Ronald McDonald House Charities in Northwest Florida, where I was. If
Nice.
she hadn't really pushed and encouraged me, I don't know that I would have done it. So I have to give her credit.
That's cool. Very cool. Well, those are great shout outs. Everyone loves the dad shout out. I think it's awesome. And thank you for the other woman who's helped influence you and impact you jumping into the nonprofit space. What just in closing, I'd love to know, as this grows and expands, what do you say to other people who are kind of looking in at nonprofits and saying, hey, you know what? There's a lot that can be done. What do you say to that?
I think everything we're getting ready to do is made possible by a strong mission a strong culture that I think we've been very intentional to try to build and foster
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
cultivate. And I think also making sure that all the stakeholders, whether they're lawmakers, volunteers, donors, board members, everyone has a very important role in our success. And we have to make sure they're engaged, they feel supported, and they feel
Right.
aligned to our mission. Everything comes back to the mission.
Love
And I
it.
think we're very fortunate that we have a really strong mission.
Well, and for those listening, nonprofit or not, if you are not mission driven, you should be. If your organization is starting to get going and your business is starting to get to that growth and scaling mode, you've got to take a step back and make sure that your entire group is aligned on a mission, as is Paul's organization. Because when you are aligned on a mission, you really do feel that unity, that alignment, and people feel like, hey, man, this is exactly where we're headed. I'm in. And if you don't have that, buy-in is really, really hard to get. Paul, thanks for sharing that with us. I love that thought, and that's a great one to close on. For those of you listening, check out his nonprofit. Go see if there's a way you can help. And if you can't, see if there's something local to you that you can be a part of and volunteer your time and your resources and help them do the good works that they're set out to do. Paul, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
I hope you loved that. To be honest, I was really shocked how much I loved that interview and how much I learned from Paul about how to operate a nonprofit. Really cool stuff. I made an attempt a few years ago, and honestly, I gave up after the first year and a half because it just was not. I'm a profit guy, and it was just an interesting model to take that such a different approach to raising money. So I love the lessons he taught us. I love how he was so forthright in telling us some of the challenges and some of the things that really worked out great in their growth model. It's exciting to hear how a legacy business can be passed down and continue to grow and develop and nurture through awesome leadership. Thanks again, Paul, for the time. And for those of you that didn't know, Paul is also part of a group, a peer networking group, similar to the Captain's Council. And if you haven't heard already, the Captain's Council is sponsoring this episode today. They are an organization that is built around people like you. How do you connect CEOs and operators of businesses together so that you can vent, so you can talk about the challenges you're facing that you really don't want your investors or your employees to know you're dealing with right now in the business? There's a lot of things that get brushed under the rug because you just don't have the peer group or the people to talk to about resolution. You need to resolve problems, and you also need a group of people who are just like you, helping guide you along the way and holding you accountable for your growth of your business. Yes, the board will hold you accountable, but you know what's better is when you've got a group of other operators in your corner saying, gosh, Todd, why are you doing that with your business when you should be putting your focus here? Sometimes it takes that person from the outside to give you that insight, and at the Captain's Council, you can find that. Come check it out, captainscouncil.com. And if you haven't done so already, sign up, share it with your friends, and keep enjoying this podcast. Because this podcast, the Growth and Scaling Podcast, is designed to help you grow and scale your business. And if you're not, leave us a note in the comments. Tell us what you need to know, because we're here to provide you with resources, with people, and understanding of how to take your business to that next level. Thanks for being a part of the program today. We'll see you on the next one.